As long as I can get everything up, we are good. Right. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, everyone. Look, guys, if you've not seen the mainstream media, if you've not seen the news, maybe you've not, maybe this just got brushed under the carpet, but this is going to change absolutely everything. So Zelensky is requesting. In fact, let me share this with everyone so I don't get done for fake news. So Vladimir Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, is requesting foreign boots. Well, I'll let me read you the headline. Zelensky says foreign troops in Ukraine are a necessary part. I think it should be are a necessary part. You know when there's a typo and I read it and then I'm like, oh God, I've got this thing where I look at things and I read it and I come back. So there certainly should be a little in there. So Zelensky says foreign troops in Ukraine are a necessary part of security guarantees. That's what I'm talking about this evening, guys. Also for those of you guys who are going to be on, I know you guys have been closed down in a minute, but for those guys who are on YouTube, we are also going to be talking about the Russian draft. The Russians have just completed their autumn draft. Get this. Guess how many people they recruited? What? 5,000? 10,000? No, 100, over 135,000. Can you just imagine the logistics, the boots, the clothes, the weapons, the ammunition, the food, the water that you need to support 135,000 troops? You see, this is what I think of when we talk of that. So that's what we're going to be talking about this evening, guys. This evening, ladies and gentlemen. Sharon Owen is saying Zelensky is just a gift on TikTok. And Casper sent a rose on TikTok. Right, listen, let me start with some. Oh, good. Right, let me turn the chat on YouTube. Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to get some chat. I'm going to get some comments on the chat on YouTube. I'm then gonna close TikTok down. Yeah, I'm going to close you guys down. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I don't want to get blocked. If you guys on TikTok want to continue this live stream, I'm going to be on for the next hour, maybe more, probably maybe a lot longer. I don't know. I'm going to be over on TikTok, on YouTube, sorry, for at least an hour. I'm the Real Raven 1 on YouTube, and I'm the Real Raven 1 on X. So please go and show your support over there. And if you're not going to follow on TikTok or YouTube, then I'll be back on tomorrow morning at 10. Yes, I will. Right. Band again is saying, I'm hearing nothing but peace talks going really well. Yeah, that's what I said, guys. Listen, I said, like the other day when you guys were asking right, is anybody under the illusion right now that we're not going to send British soldiers to Ukraine? Like, I don't know. That's a question. I'm not stating anything. I'm asking a question. Does anybody think that the Britain, France, Germany, Poland are not going to have some sort of boots on the ground in Ukraine as some sort of contingent? I don't think there's a way out of it right now. Now, interestingly enough, Sergei Lavrov has commented on this, and what he's saying is that any foreign troops in Ukraine will be, well, do you know what? I'll just read what he says. So this is what Sergei Lavrov is saying. Now, Sergei Lavrov is the Russian foreign minister, and while there's a lot of Russians I don't really pay much attention to, I pay a lot of attention to Sergei Lavrov. He's been in the game a long time. He understands the rules, and he has these half-baked Western politicians running around his absolute finger. Western politicians are not smart enough to come up against Sergei Lavrov. They're not. He really is a very senior guy in the Russian establishment. So. In response to this headline where Zelensky is asking for foreign troops in Ukraine, Sergei Lavrov is saying, these ambitions of European officials have literally blinded them. Not only do they not care about Ukrainians, but they do not care about their own people. This is the only way to explain the fact that they still talk about Europeans sending military forces to Ukraine as part of so-called coalition of willing. We have said many times that in this case, our armed forces would view them as legitimate target. So that's what Sergei Lavrov was saying. Basically, the whole West, right, are saying, we want boots on the ground, we want international peacekeepers, and the Russians have been very clear from day one, any foreign troops in Ukraine would be seen as a legitimate target. So there we have it, guys. There we have it. That is where we are right now. Right, you guys on TikTok. I'm going to close you guys down now. You guys have been fantastic. I'm sorry I wasn't. Listen, guys, I'm genuinely sorry. I tried to get on a lot earlier. For some reason, it just wouldn't let me. It wouldn't let me go live. Anyway, I'm on now. A lot less time than I should have been. I do apologize for that. Tomorrow morning, I'll try and get on at least half an hour before I start the main live on YouTube. Anyway, I'll be closing you guys down now. I'll be streaming on YouTube for at least an hour. I'm the Real Raven 1 on YouTube. I'm the Real Raven 1 on X. And I hopefully will see you guys there. Now, let me close this down. Right, we are off. Right, move that out of the way. And this bad weather, I think it's coming, guys. You know, this bad weather that we've had forecast, I do think it's coming. The more we move forwards, I do think it's coming. Right, let me. Oh, April 221. April has become a member for 1 month. Thank you for becoming a member, April. I really do appreciate it. Listen, guys, I appreciate all the members. For all you guys who become members, you really help me out when you do that. Also, if you're a member, I don't think you get ads either. I don't know how it works. Honestly, guys, I don't know how it works. But we was on the chat earlier and somebody was saying, I'm getting ads every 2 seconds. And somebody was saying, I'm not getting any ads. And somebody said on the chat, so look, guys, let me caveat this. I genuinely, honestly, I don't know how the YouTube algorithm and stuff works with the ads, but I'm not sure if you know what, I'm going to leave it there. I'm not sure if you get ads. I'm not sure if you get ads on the, if you're a member. All right. Let me put it there. Cause I don't want you guys to become members and get loads of ads. I don't know how it works. Oh, and AJ Aesthetics. AJ Aesthetics has become a member as well. Thank you, AJ Aesthetics, for becoming a member. It really helps me out, guys, when you do that. Honestly, so much. Thank you so much for you guys becoming members. Right. Let me start with my opening monologue. So let's put this into context. So just when you guys thought that 2025 couldn't get any more tense, because really, honestly, this changes there's no going back after this. This will change everything. So just when you thought, right at the end of 2025, when you thought things couldn't get more tense, here's a little bit of news from, here's a little bit of news from across let's talk about Russia first, actually. Let's talk about what's happening in Russia. So, let's do Russia first. So Russia has just wrapped up their autumn conscription drive. They have drafted no fewer than 135,000 young men aged between 18 and 30. Just conceptualize that, guys. All right. Just try and think about that. All right. I'll give you the numbers later. I'll give you more wild numbers later. But that's their autumn. That's how many people Russia drafted in autumn. All right. Their autumn conscription drive, 135,000 young men. Just think of what you need to sustain 135,000 men. I think the most people I've ever had working for me at once was like 105 or something. And I had to feed them. I had to accommodate them. I had to logisticize them. I had to do everything. It's a lot of stuff you need. So when I'm thinking of 135,000 conscripts, wow. The military-industrial complex in Russia is huge. Remember, we are heading towards a global conflict on an industrial scale. And manpower, the Russians really are industrializing their manpower. So they've managed to get 135,000. Just say that number over in your heads, guys. Okay, 135,000. All right, and I'll come on to more numbers later. Into the armed forces and other military units. That's according to the Russian Ministry of Defense itself. Announced right. I think it was today. Actually, I'm pretty sure it was today, the 29th. Now this isn't just any draft. You know, Russians still do conscription. This is the biggest autumn call-up since 2016, when they managed to pull in 152,000. Now, to put this into perspective, back in autumn 2022, it was around 127,000. 23, it was 130,000. 24, 133,000. Now in 2025, it's 135,000. If you add the spring draft earlier this year, that's a whopping 160,000. And Russia has already conscripted nearly 300,000 men. So Russia has already conscripted nearly 300,000 men in 2025 alone. That's more than the Channel migrants, guys. That is a lot of men. So when everybody's talking about these peace talks and Putin's ready to come to a peace negotiation and there's going to be, like, stop. If there was any hope of peace, think about those men, 135,000 men, right? Think of how much money it costs. How much money it costs to give them all a rifle, to give them all ammunition, to give them all boots, to give them all uniform, to give them vehicles between however many. Food, water, medical, logistics. That is expensive. So that's an extra 135,000. Moscow insists these conscripts won't be sent to fight in Ukraine. They will not fight in Ukraine. They will only serve inside Russia proper for a year of compulsory military service, which is true. But what they're doing is they're backfilling because I think in Russia you're not allowed to send the conscripts overseas. So what I think they're doing is they're using the conscripts to backfill the roles that they already have and then sending those guys out front. Look, guys, whatever it is, it's a lot of manpower. It is a lot of manpower. However, that's what the Russians are saying. Now, we've heard these assurances before. I would say, and there are a lot of independent reports out there that say that maybe some conscripts may end up, may end up on the front line. I don't know. I'm not saying that, guys. I'm clearly not saying that, but some people allegedly may say that, may or may not say that. There is a big, there is a big incentive though for these guys to sign their contracts and go on the front line. So the Russians will be pushing these people forwards. Now, it's not hard to be skeptical when Russia's been steadily expanding its military, aiming for 1.5 million active personnel and pouring even more resources into the war effort. Here in the United Kingdom, this thing hits close to home. We've got our own chiefs of defense warning that we are living in a pre-war generation, urging more of us to be ready to defend the country if the push comes to... Can you remember when they came out and they said, what's his name? Is it Knighterton? I got Richard Dickie Knighterton or whatever it is. I don't know what his name is. The guy with all the... He's got like the silly costume on and stuff. Honestly, when I see people like military people and they've got their ceremonial dress on and they're giving, I just think you're a douche. That's what I think anyway. That's what I think. I think you're a douche. Just wear fatigues, wear the camouflage stuff. It's a lot more credible. Or just wear a suit. It's a lot more credible. But can you remember when that guy came out and he said, our children need to be prepared to fight? And I think he said something like, very soon people will understand the meaning of sacrifice. I think he said something on those lines. Like literally, it was only like last week or something. While we're not talking conscription in the United Kingdom, thank the heavens, yet, it's still, the British military is still a voluntary force. The shadow of Russia's buildup is impossible to ignore. Like, you can't ignore this. 135,000 men additional. Putin is not just maintaining his army, he's growing it. And that's the reality. He's growing his army, he's modernizing it, and he's giving it battlefield experience. Here in the United Kingdom, for instance, we've just spent 5.5 billion on an armored vehicle that doesn't work, and it's probably going to get scrapped. I.e., we've just thrown 5.5 million down the drain. But don't worry, who is it? General Dynamics had a very good year. General Dynamics did it. They had a very good year. So as we head into the new year with this, with the conflict in Ukraine still grinding on, no clear end in sight, this latest Russian draft is an absolute reminder that the war in Ukraine isn't going anywhere, guys. It's not going anywhere. Like I said the other day, when people thought that there was going to be some sort of, like I said the other day, when people thought there was going to be some sort of, some sort of miracle peace deal, miracle peace negotiation. It's just not going to happen. It really isn't going to happen. There's too many people making money. There is, and they're not making money illegitimately. They're making money legitimately. Now, if you are, for example, if you are a UK politician, right, and you've been, somebody from Boeing has given you a hefty donation, 100 grand, 150 grand, whatever, and they've said, right, Raven, here's 150 grand. I said, mate, triple it and add a note on it. No, some of these politicians that we have in the United Kingdom, they are, I'm not going to say anything because I'm getting a lot of my videos demonetized. So some of these politicians that we have in the United Kingdom do take donations, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That is totally above board. It's legal under our system. Now, the problem that I think everybody understands is when you take a donation off, for example, if you take a donation from General Dynamics, they give you 100 grand, 200 grand, 500,000, whatever. They say, right, if you get us through over the line on this contract, we will give you a job working for our company. When you finish your job as Member of Parliament, we will pay you 100 grand a year for the next 5 years. You don't even have to come into the office. There's nothing wrong with that, guys. That is perfectly legal. That is all above board. And I'm not saying that's happening. Of course, I'm not saying that's happening. But when you start taking money and when you start taking donations of people and they want to keep this war going because they want to keep their sales going, that's the problem. And we saw this in 2020 with these, with what happened in 2020, right? So let me jump over now to the main crux of this live stream. So this is going to change everything. Ladies and gentlemen, this will change absolutely everything in this conflict. I'll show you guys what I read earlier, and then I'm going to give you guys I'm going to break this down into, I'm going to give you guys context on this. So 8 hours ago, Zelensky says foreign troops in Ukraine are a necessary part of security guarantees. So with that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, with Zelensky now saying that foreign troops on the ground requesting for, I don't know whether any better word to say it, that is clear. As far as I'm concerned, that is a request of foreign troops on the ground as part of this peace negotiation. So Zelensky made it very clear. Every time I think about Zelensky, I think about this potential scandal that may or may not be hitting him very soon, where he's trying to get $4 billion, I think it's $4 billion or 4 billion euros out of Ukraine, and they have to try and buy a bank, and they have to phone Macron up. Allegedly. Anyway, let's just continue. So Zelensky has made it very clear today that he sees the presence of foreign troops on Ukrainian soil an absolute essential part of any security guarantees for his country. And I do think he's right, to be fair. should a deal ever be reached to end this war. We already know that Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, has said any foreign troops in Ukraine, they're fair game. Our military will engage them as a legitimate target. In his words to reporters, he said, "I believe that the presence of international troops is a real security guarantee. It strengthens the assurances our partners are already offering us." Just a few weeks ago, leaders from across Europe, including our very own illustrious, powerful, intelligent, articulate, good-looking Prime Minister Keir Starmer, alongside the President of France and Germany and heads of governments from 8 other nations, signaled that Europe is prepared to take the lead in forming a multinational force in Ukraine. This will be part of an American-backed proposal for peace. Remember, the Americans, and I've been saying this for over 2 years, the Americans don't want none of this. They ain't going to get involved. It's not for them. The Americans have got bigger fish to fry. They've just not presented themselves yet. The idea is that this so-called coalition of the willing, with, supported with the green light from the United States, could help rebuild Ukraine's armed forces, secure its airspace, and ensure safer seas, including by operating inside Ukraine itself. But let's not mince words, guys. Let's not beat around the bush. Moscow's response has been swift and uncompromising. Like I said, in an interview with I think it's TASS, TASS. It's like the Russian state media. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov warned that any European troops deployed to Ukraine would be treated by Russian forces as legitimate military targets. So you've got an impasse right there. We have got a diplomatic impasse, and all the time while we've got this diplomatic impasse, the Ukrainians are losing ground and the Russians are taking ground. People on both sides, young men on both sides are. I think I've caught that cold. Young men on both sides are. It's going bad for the young men on both sides. He accused European leaders of being blinded by ambition, saying that European leaders cared neither for Ukraine nor their own people, and reiterated that Russian armed forces would view such contingents as fair game. This is the stark choice now facing Britain and European allies, whether to step forward with some sort of concrete military commitments on the ground in Ukraine as part of a credible security network, or to leave Kiev vulnerable to the very aggression that we've spent nearly 4 years trying to repel. The stakes couldn't be higher right now. And let's just rewind. Let's just rewind to, can I have a rewind? Let's have a little rewind to 2022, right? Can you guys remember in 2022 when people were, countries were saying, oh, we're going to give, we're only donating non-lethal humanity. The Germans were fantastic at this. The Germans literally said, yeah, we will only donate non-lethal humanitarian aid, body armor, and the helmet. Yeah, that's literally what the Germans said. Fast forward, they're literally getting main battle tanks, M1 Abrahams, Challenger 2 main battle tanks, F-16s, HIMARS, drones. Literally, we are throwing everything at Ukraine, at the Ukrainians. We're giving the Ukrainians everything. And still the Russians are pushing forwards. Now, the Russians are pushing forwards, and the one thing that we can't give the Ukrainians is men. They need more men. That's the reality. And without more men, it's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. They are going to falter, and that's the reality. Right, let me jump up, guys, and get some comments. Good evening, everyone. Gerald of Riviera is saying, Arming the men of this country who've had their land and their future stolen en masse by traitors isn't top of the traitors list, in my opinion. Right, I think that's talking to someone else. Asia Satis is saying, I wouldn't be forced into fighting a foreign war whilst others sit here and live off our benefit system. I think you are 100% right, and you echo the voice of, I'm glad actually you echo the voice of most people around the United Kingdom. I spoke about this yesterday. I think it was, it probably was, I don't know. It was yesterday or the day before. I do think we're going to see this new dynamic where the government are going to offer some sort of, I don't want to use the, we're already seeing it actually. So yesterday in the newspaper, I think it was yesterday or the day before, I was talking about this, the Afghan, I was talking about the Afghan soldiers who are in the United Kingdom. You know, they're Afghan special forces. They've been trained by the British military, and they are upset that they can't join the British military to backfill the recruitment gaps. I think that's coming. What will happen is they're going to open that. Once they open that ticket and say, right, okay, you don't actually have to be a resident or a British citizen to be a member of the armed forces or something like that. I don't, look, guys, I don't know how they're going to frame it exactly, right? I don't know. If I say, for example, I'm not saying this, but if I said, for example, allegedly, for entertainment purposes, it's going to be citizenship for service. So as soon as you sign on that dotted line, you become a British citizen or whatever. And what happens is after 5 years, you get your British citizenship. People will be like, oh, but Sean, you said this. No, it doesn't matter. You know, it's like when I talk about conscription, whether it's conscription, mandatory military service, whether it's voluntary military service, but everyone has to do it. You know, whatever way this is dressed up, the direction is the same. They've already opened the can now. The can's open. There's going to be a situation in the United Kingdom very soon where we are going to see non-British citizens joining the army, the armed forces. And is that so hot? You know, and is that so difficult to? You know, I mean, we already do this. We've already got the Royal Gurkha Rifles, who are, I think they're Nepalese. Yeah, they're Nepalese. Like the Royal Gurkha Rifles, you get Indian Gurkhas and you get Nepalese Gurkhas. So we already do this. There's a unit of Royal Gurkha Rifles. Now, it's not beyond the stretch of the imagination to say, right, okay, we're going to open this up to the first Royal Afghan National Army Regiment, the Royal National Afghan Regiment. Like, can we make it say ours? Afghan Royal Special Engagements. The Afghan Royal Special Engagements. That's what it may be called, guys. It may be called the Royal Afghan Afghan Royal Special Engagements. That's what it might be called. It might be called the Afghan Royal Special Engagements Unit. I don't know. But is it beyond the realms of possibility? Is it beyond the realms of possibility to think that that could happen? I don't think it is. And then once that's happened, you think, right, okay, we've got some free manpower here. What else can we do? Well, what about all these Syrians we've got? Hey, guys, you guys want to be part? I mean, they're already in barracks, right? They're literally already in barracks. Yeah, they're literally already in barracks. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that this could happen. And I think there is a likelihood of it. That's me. All right. And we're seeing this in the mainstream as well. Right, let me jump down. Martin Quinn is saying that the people that come over on the boats have more right. I think he's mean have more rights than us. What's going on? Send them to the front line. At least the good with watercraft. At least they're good with watercraft. I think that's what it means. And AJ Aesthetics is saying, Ann Middleton claims there are people who, at one push of a button, can begin a civil war in this country, including the army being on our side. Not sure where he's got that from. Look, I've never met Ant. I've never met Ant. I've got so when I was in the military, I was on a different rotation to Ant. And the only rotation that I would have met him would have been in Afghanistan. And so you're on like a 3-pronged rotation, and you always meet the same people, and you always don't meet the same people. And Ant was on a different rotation than me, so I've never actually met Ant, but I've got a lot of friends who've met Ant. I will actually absolutely support him. I'm going to support him. I'm not going to say anything negative about him, right? I'm not going to say anything negative about him. But, he is legit. He's definitely legit. He didn't do that long as a special forces operator, but he was there. He's part of the club. I think he's absolutely right. I don't know where this comment came from, but I would say he is absolutely right. There are people or organizations maybe who literally at a push up of a button can begin a civil war in this country. Absolutely. Now, if you think, a good litmus test for this. A good litmus test for this would be look at Elon Musk. Look at Twitter, X. Sorry, look at X. Look at the influence that they have. They can, at a push of a button, pump this stuff out there, get people riled up, and push these things out there. So absolutely, and when he talks about the army being on our side, I'm someone who served in the army. And I can tell you there are more acts of subordination that like just don't even make the media. Like there are quite a few acts of blatant subordination against the government. Now, allegedly for entertainment purposes, do your own research. What I'm saying is conspiracy. This is for entertainment, right? What I would say, allegedly, potentially, is there are a lot of acts of subordination that have happened in high echelons of the military that go again. I'm going to leave it there, guys. I don't want to get myself in trouble. All I'm going to say is on that, I don't think Ant Middleton's far off the mark. Hang on, Googleino, right. Googleino is saying Trump warns he will knock the hell out of Iran. Right, let me get this up. Okay, I've not got that one. Okay, look, guys, this is coming. Let me get this up. So, hang on, give me a second. Right, I've got ads coming up. No, I don't want the ads. I reject all ads. I'm going to close that down. Oh, later, I don't want it. Right, let me share with you this real quick. So, look, guys, if you've been following me for a while, I've always said, literally, I've always said that the United States are going to go into Iran, right? I've said it's the United States are going to have boots on the ground in Iran. That's what I've always said. Trump warns Iran against reconstituting nuclear program as he welcomes Israel's Israel's Netanyahu for talks. Right, I'm gonna stop sharing this, but I will read on this. Okay, President Donald Trump has warned Iran against reconstituting its nuclear program today as he welcomed Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to his home in Florida for wide-ranging talks. Look, I don't need to read that article. I don't need to read that article. What we know and what I've been saying for the longest time is the United Kingdom are going to lead this coalition of willing in Ukraine, and the Americans, well, they're going to go and have their diddly war in diddly Iran. That's the reality. You know, I've said it now. I'll say it now. I'll say what I've always said. I'm not flammering around different ideas, you know, going, oh, these are saying this, that's going to happen. Like, I go against a lot of the mainstream. Like, when you get all these half-baked media journalists, commentators who have no idea what they really don't have any idea what they're talking about. They're just literally reading words off the screen. They're like Joe Biden's automatons. Is it really that hard to understand? In November 2023, the United States signed a declaration. It was called House Resolution 599. And that states, I might be slightly wrong with the wording, I'm doing this in real time off the top of my head. And that states that under no circumstances will the United States allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon. And two, they would support freedom of action for any regional allies who want to destroy Iran's nuclear facilities or whatever. They're talking about Israel, basically. That was twas written in 2003, I think, maybe even 2022. That was under the Biden administration. So been quite clear the direction of travel. Now, logistically, so think about 130. We were just talking about 135,000 troops, right? Think about how many pairs of boots, if they've all got two legs. Okay, think about how many pairs of boots, how many sets of uniform, how many rifles, how many sleeping bags, how much food these guys are going to eat in one day. It's a lot, all right? It's a lot. Now, think about a United States deployment to Eastern Europe. They're going to have to bring all that shit with them. Maybe not the food. I think they would just subcontract that. But I'm not actually sure. I think they would have to bring that with them. I don't know. But they'd have to bring all that stuff with them. So they're going to have to take that over like the Atlantic. They're going to have to drop it down. They're going to have to truck it in. It's an absolute swizzle. It's an absolute swizzle to do that. So it's just not going to happen. It really isn't going to happen. The logistics involved, and what the Americans would do by going into Europe, they would halve their firepower and double their enemies. And nobody wants that. Like, if you're fighting a war, you want to minimize your enemies and you want to maximize your firepower, right? Because, a fair fight is bad tactics. And these are lessons learned from Iraq. So Iraq and Afghanistan, the Americans tried to fight two wars on two fronts. What they did is they halved their troops and they doubled their enemies. So it makes no sense for them to do that. Oh, hang on. Googleinos! Googleino is saying, Sean, Trump warns he'll knock the hell out of Iran if it tries to rearm its nuclear capabilities. It's a Sky News video on YouTube. Right, let me try and get this. Give me a second. Give me a second. Right, hang on. Right, let me right, I'm going to share this with you guys. I don't know. I'm going to share this with you guys. I don't know what it's let me just share this with you. I've not watched this. Let's see what it says.
Netanyahu thinks the pair are on a victory lap, with his office posting this AI video. 3 of Israel's war fronts are on the agenda: Gaza, Iran, and Lebanon. So what can we expect from their meeting at Mar-a-Lago? The White House wants to iron out the next phase of Trump's peace plan in Gaza, which includes a Palestinian technocratic government and the demilitarization of the...
A Palestinian technocratic government? What does that even mean? What does that even mean? A technocratic? I don't even know what that means, guys. I'm gonna have to Google that. What is a Palestinian technocratical government? I don't know what that means. I'm done. I'm done. I don't think she knows either.
Strip through an international coalition of troops. But Netanyahu is expected to stall demilitarization and reject any plans to disarm Hamas that doesn't involve the IDF. In the lead up to Netanyahu's meeting with Trump, his defense minister Israel Katz had this to say about Gaza's future.
We're deep inside Gaza and we will never leave Gaza. There'll be no such thing. We're there to defend, to prevent what happened in the past.
Israeli strikes on Gaza have continued through the ceasefire period, killing a 5-month-old baby in a school shelter and an 8-year-old on the yellow line demarcating Israeli control.
These markers show where yellow IDF blocks have been recorded. We've calculated these to be 390 to 490 meters from the line mapped on official IDF channels. And to the east of the line, new Israeli military outposts can be seen from space.
The strip is...
So I'm just going to leave that there, guys. Let me try and look at this article. Give me a second. Right, let me share this article because that was just, she was just going absolutely nowhere with that. She had that monotone voice and she was doing my head in. So let's just look what she's saying. So this is from Sky News Live. Trump latest. US will knock the hell out of Iran if it tries to rearm, US President says. Donald Trump has welcomed Israel's Prime Minister to Netanyahu to his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida and fired a warning to Iran over reports it's trying to rearm. So let's have a look down. No, we're not interested in that. Right. Israeli Prime Minister says no talks with Trump since Netanyahu pardon request. Right, that's not it. Venezuela. George Trump. I'd love to. I want to have a dinner there. Honestly, can I make that? I want to have my dinner there. I think I should have my dinner there. Donald Trump is answering every question from reporters and takes the next one on Gaza's reconstruction. I think it's going to begin pretty soon, he says. What a mess. What a mess. What a mess it is. And it's been a mess for centuries. It's been a mess for a long time. So it looks like it's a mess. It seems to be born for that. But we're going to straighten it out. We're already starting certain things, doing things for sanitary conditions for others. But Gaza is a tough place. You know the expression. It's a tough neighborhood. Do you reckon? It's truly a tough neighborhood. So, I just think that, that video that they sent a while ago saying Donald Trump will set you free, bringing the light for all to see. I think literally we're looking at that. I do think that's going to happen. That's going to have obvious implications to, that's obviously going to have obvious implications to Iran. Iran are the regional powers there. And look, let's not forget that this is all, as far as I'm concerned, down to a power play with the with this land corridor that will cut Iran's influence out of the Middle East. So let me just try and get this up. Let me just see if I can get a, I think this is it. Let me see if I can get a picture. No, maybe that's not it. Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to get an image. Yeah, I can't really. Okay, so basically, look, I'm just gonna explain this. I look, when I do these live streams, I never know where we're gonna go with the conversation, and sometimes I don't want to spend too much time typing on stuff, trying to get the correct image, because sometimes it may be wrong. But there was a proposed land corridor. There was a supposed land corridor in the Middle East. Now, if you think of the Middle East, all right, I'm just going to try and paint this picture for you. You've got for you guys, you've got like Iran, and then you would have like Iraq here with Kuwait. You would have the Persian Gulf here, and then you would have Saudi Arabia. You would have Jordan, Israel, and then like Egypt here, and then of course you would have like, I don't know, Gaza here. Now, what there was proposed, there was a proposed land corridor. Now, I'm not sure whether this was, I think it had to be through rail. I think it was rail or road. I don't know why it was, but there was going to be a proposed land corridor that would take goods, hydrocarbons, oil tankers, whatever, rather than having to go by ship through the Strait of Hormuz in that massive by that massive choke point with Iran controlling it. That land corridor would have totally cut them out. 100% they would be cut out. So now this land corridor would go through Saudi Arabia, through Jordan, through Israel to the Mediterranean, totally cutting out Iran's influence. Now they would look like they wouldn't be able to dictate as much as they do, because a lot of the Middle Eastern countries are scared of Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz, because if you close the Strait of Hormuz, 20%, by some statistics say that 20% of the world's oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz. So that's one of the reasons why I believe all this stuff's happening. It's all about trade routes. It's all about, ultimately it's about everything, literally everything is about people making money. Emma Watts is saying was really aggressive and smashed car. What's happening here? What's happening here? Where's Emma's other comment? Emma, Stripey Audits has been arrested. Right, I don't know who Stripey Audits is. Right, I don't know who Stripey Audits is, guys. I don't know who Stripey Audits is. Googleinos is saying defense spending falls 800 billion short. I don't know what that means. Does that mean we're 800 billion short, or we've not spent 800 billion? Listen, I'll let you guys into a little secret. I can't remember what year it was, maybe 2000, 2001 or something. I was doing my first overseas exercise in Oman, and the unit that the 1st Battalion Battle Group, they had a massive, they didn't spend enough money. So what they did is they just they spent all the money on the blokes. They we had for I think it was for the last 3 days, we had first class, we had premium suites at the best hotels. We had fantastic, we had fantastic food. We was living like kings. It was fantastic. So it's really easy to spend that extra money. So I'm going to assume that this is, I'm going to assume that defense spending is 800 billion short. I'm going to assume that's what that means, because it's really easy. It's really easy to spend that extra money. Louis Ackers is saying Geneva Convention and many others never work. It's a huge scam. So with all these, the Geneva Convention, the International ECHR, whatever it's called, with the International Law of Armed Conflict, if there's nobody there to enforce these laws, like international law, right? International law. Who enforces the international law? Is there some sort of international police? Like, who enforces it? Like, nobody. Like, international laws, they're really not like international laws for world leaders. They're not worth the paper they're written on. They really aren't. Silly Gallardi is saying Bob is in big trouble as he must do whatever Trump will tell him, but his electors don't like it. It's a show Trump is doing for BB. Oh, I think, okay, right. Okay, so we're saying that, all right, okay, so I think we're saying that Bob is Netanyahu. I think that's what we're saying. I think we're saying Bob is Netanyahu. I don't know. Okay, so Bob is Benjamin. Is Benjamin Bob? Surely it's Ben. Sure, whatever. Okay, whatever. But what Silly Gallardi is saying is Netanyahu, I think Netanyahu is in big trouble as he must do whatever Trump tells him. But his electors don't like it. It's a look, everything's a show. I was talking to my friend earlier. I was talking to my friend, and we're both in the agreement, right? That people are stupid. Honestly, like, people are stupid. Generally. Most people. Not everyone. Do you know what? I think I just got myself demonetized. Whatever. Most people, and the reason I'm saying this, I was telling him, I was saying, yeah, I was at the airport the other day, right? So I'm at the airport, and there was a queue for the men's toilets, right? And I just kept seeing people leave. I'm looking, I'm thinking, right, okay, what's going on here? So I saw another guy leave. I looked at the front, and there was some guy on his phone. And what had happened is some guy had just gone to the toilets and he was on his phone, right? And the guy next to him, and the next guy came in and thought, oh, there's a queue. So he stood behind him like lemmings, like sheep. And then the next guy came and thought, oh, there's a queue. So now I think there was 4 people and I was the 5th. I was like, yeah, I'm not playing with that. So I walked straight in and I went to the toilet. And as I walked in, people followed me. But like, people don't think anymore. They really don't think anymore. I can't remember where I was going with that. Can't remember where I was going that. Anyway, let's not worry about that. Yeah, when we was talking, we was talking. I was saying, he said, yeah, everything's a game, everything's a show, nothing's real, nothing makes sense. And I think I was watching a podcast, and this guy on this podcast, he was saying what the world is right now. So the world right now, this is it, right? This is the world right now. It's maybe 6 or 7, no more than 10 huge companies, right? Just passing money to each other. That's all it is. So you've got, like, I don't know, Alphabet. They're buying shit over here. And then with that money, these guys are buying shit up, and it's just this money, and nothing's real anymore. Nothing's real anymore, guys. It's not. It's ridiculous. Nothing is real anymore. Bandagini says, stop wiggling, Sean, when you need to go to the bog, and you won't get up, and you won't get. I do need to go to the toilet, guys. I do. How did you know I need to go to the toilets? Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, let me jump back on track. Okay? Let's stop going down. Okay, let's jump back on track, okay? So we have been talking this evening about the news out of Ukraine from Zelensky himself. So Zelensky himself has been requesting foreign troops. Well, let me share the article so I don't get done for fake news. Zelensky says foreign troops in Ukraine are necessary as part of security guarantees. Now, countering that, Sergei Lavrov has said, so for those of you guys who don't know, maybe you've not been following the channel, maybe you don't understand what's going on. We are at the cusp of a global conflict on an industrial scale. That's my opinion. That's my speculation. And you know what? That is replicated now by everyone. Most people in the news, in the media, most generals, military analysts, everybody's saying the same. They're just looking and thinking, yeah, there really is no way out of this now. So Zelensky is basically requesting foreign troops in Ukraine as part of security guarantees. That's what he's asking. Now, the response has been from the Russians, from Sergei Lavrov, who is the Russian foreign minister, and he's a very experienced operator. He's very intelligent. Like, I would love to watch a conversation between Sergei Lavrov and David Lammy. Sorry, he's not the foreign secretary, is it? Yvette Cooper. It would be very embarrassing because he's a very experienced operator. He's been in that post a long time, whereas Yvette Cooper, she's only been in it for like, what, less than a year? How are you supposed to compete with that? So this is what he said. He said, these ambitions of European officials have literally blinded them. Not only do they not care about Ukraine, but they do not care about their own people. This is the only way to explain the fact that there is still talk in Europe about sending military forces to Ukraine as part of the so-called coalition of the willing. We have said many times that in this case, our armed forces would view them as legitimate target and wipe capitalist pig off planet Earth. I added that last bit myself. So we really are at an impasse now, and the situation's getting worse. You know, it really is. As a backdrop to this, the Russians have just, as per the Russian state media, they've just completed their, excuse me, they've just completed their autumn draft, and they've just brought in 135,000 conscripts. That's what they've just done. Again, imagine those numbers. You know, can you imagine like how to administrate 135,000 people? The numbers are quite phenomenal. Slim is saying World War III is a doddle. It will be over by Christmas, just not sure what year. James Brooke says, I used to have a dog named after Benjamin. Right, okay, hang on. I used to have a dog named after Benjamin Netanyahu, actually out of respect called Ben, but that was in the early 90s. Netanyahu doesn't seem to have changed. I don't know. Maybe he's a vampire or something. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he's drinking blood. I don't know. Sean, try talking with a Russian accent all the stream. I absolutely could. Listen, guys, I used to live in, right, let me try and get this. Let me try and get this on. Right, I've got some ads. Let me try and right, okay, I've got ads coming on. Let me I've got LaRue on as well, which is weird. Right, give me a second, and as soon as the ads are gone, we will. Oh god, there's another ad. There's another ad. Right, I've got two ads. They're really blasted. I understand what you guys mean about the ads. Right, we've got ads. We've got more ads. We've got 7 seconds of ads. Do I need to skip? All right. Give me a second. Sorry, guys, I'm just trying to get this on. Is this it?
Last 3 days.
President Trump, are you going to have the green light for another attack in Iraq?
Mr. President, how quickly should the folks move to phase 2 of the peace plan for Gaza?
As quickly as we can, but there has to be a disarmament, that we have to disarm with Hamas. So one of the things we'll talk about certainly, but there has to be a disarming of Hamas. Otherwise, very quickly. Yeah.
Can you say anything more about the explosion in Venezuela that you mentioned in a radio interview? Did the military do that? Can you share more details about
Well, it doesn't matter, but there was a major explosion in the dock area where they load the boats up with drugs. They load the boats up with drugs. So we hit all the boats, and now we hit the area. It's the implementation area. That's where they implement, and that is no longer around.
Is that the only strike that the U.S. has done?
I don't want to comment on
President.
President Trump,
News.
yesterday there was an explosion overnight and the Russians say that Ukraine tried to hit the residence of President Putin. Do you have any information?
No, I don't know about it actually, and I don't. I just heard about it actually, but I don't know about it. No.
Did you speak with
That would. With our beautiful B-2 bombers, if we didn't, and we sent a lot of Tomahawks in there also, by the way, from a submarine.
And what about the pardon that the President of Israel needs to give the Prime Minister?
Pardon?
Pardon.
I think he will. How do you not? He's a wartime prime minister who's a hero. How do you not give a pardon? I think it's a very hard thing not to do it. I spoke to the president, and it's on. I mean, he tells me it's on its way.
Mr. President.
Right, I'm going to leave that there, guys. I don't know where we're going with that. There's a lot of information. I don't want to just keep. I don't want to keep that going. The direction of travel really is look, and I've been saying this for such a long time. The direction of travel at the moment is Britain, Europe fighting the Russians, America, Israel fighting the Iranians, fighting in the Middle East. That's the only way it's going to go. Ultimately, I think this is going to close down. I think ultimately this is going to close down with a situation where you have. I don't see the Americans losing. I see the Europeans losing, and I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that to try and be inflammatory. I'm saying that because that is my professional opinion, right? Here in Europe, we've got too much shit going on. First of all, if you get, for example, if you're in the military, right, and you get 10 section commanders and ask them how to attack position X, right? They will come up with 10 different tactics, all right? These guys will want to go left flanking. These guys will want to go right flanking. These guys will want to go full frontal. These guys will want to go up there and fire support. And, and then they'll argue among themselves. And nothing will happen. If you get one section commander and say, right, go and attack that place, he'll just go and do it straight away. So where the Americans come under one leader, one direction, and one path. That's the Americans, right? They've got that direction. The Europeans, I think there was maybe 30 European countries or something. I mean, the main players are Britain, Poland, Germany, Sweden, Finland, maybe France. And I'm saying France because they've got huge nuclear. I may have missed some, I don't know. But what you can see, you've got a lot of different political directions there, yeah? So it's very difficult to come under command and control. What are we going to do? I don't know. We're going to spend. Can everybody spend loads of money on defense? Yeah. What have you spent your money on, Britain? Well, we spent 5.5 billion on this armored vehicle. Oh, let's see it. Literally, this is where we are, right? This is where we are in Europe, all right? So the Americans, they are doing their American thing, and I think they're going to be successful. I do. I think they're going to be successful in the Middle East. I'm not that confident about the Europeans in Europe. I'm not. And the reason is this. the Europeans are saying, okay, that Mark Rutte, I don't know, is he German? Is Austrian or what? I don't know. He said, yeah, we need to put up defense spending. Can all countries please try and spend more on defense, yeah? Because my wife has new boyfriend. And no, maybe she doesn't. I don't know. So then all the countries are like, yeah, we're going to spend more on defense. You know, and then he's walking around. He's like doing the inspection. Right, Britain, what did you spend your defense money on? Oh, we spent 5.5 billion on this new armored vehicle. Oh, is it new? Yeah, it's a new armored vehicle. What? It's brand new. It's latest technology. Oh, wow. Can I see it? Yeah, about that. What do you mean? Well, you can't actually see the armored vehicle. Oh, why not? Is it secret? No, it doesn't work, and we just binned it. Oh, so what do you have for that 5.5 billion? Well, we don't actually have anything, but we spent 5.5 billion. Oh, okay. What did you spend with the rest? You know, okay, right, Brian, I know you've got a big defense budget. What else did you spend on defense? Well, we refurbished all the accommodation for our soldiers. Oh, how's that going to help us fight the Russians? Well, you didn't actually say what we had to spend it on, you know, so it's just ridiculous. It is. It's ridiculous. Previous comment, way up. Yes, us brave browsers. If you don't, I don't know what that means. Galloway Raider is saying, right. Oh, hi, right. Sean's still talking, Ken. Hi, I didn't miss much then. You're right. You're right, you wee. Hi, you're right, wee Galloway Raider. Russia have limited resources. What resources are Russia limited to? I mean, look, we live on planet Earth, and we are surrounded by we all have limited resources. What resources are Russia limited with? Ajax is a dog. General Dynamics BAE should have had the contract. I don't think. I think it was. I think from day one, the Ajax project was a waste of money. You know, it was an absolute waste of money. They could have spent their money on a lot better things. You see, the problem is here in the West, we try and spend money on armor, especially in the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom don't do armor well. The United Kingdom needs to spend money on fast mobile vehicles. That's what we need to spend our money on. John Scott is saying, I support Ukraine. You really want me to answer that, Sean? Yes, I do. Tell me what they're short on. Tell me what resources the Russians are short on. Like money, they can print that as much as they want. Tell me what they're short of. They're not short of manpower. They're not short of drones. They're not short of tanks or steel or coal or oil. What are the Russians short of? Hang on. Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, listen, guys, I'm going to have to, I'm going to start to close. Spirit. So Galloway Rider, right? So you came on here, right? You came on here like saying the Russians are short on resources. And then I said, what? And you said spirit. I don't even think that's like, I don't even think that's I'm not even going to go with that. I'm not even going to go with that. Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen. No, I don't think Russians are invincible at all. What I do think is the use of the way the Russians are using using conscripts and their ability to move forwards, and that with that attritional rate, that is something that here in the West we have no idea how to deal with. For example, here in the West, how do we deal with marauding land pirates? Where, hypothetically, where the Russians would say to their conscripts, right, you 100 people, go into Poland, take whatever you want, it's yours. Literally, whatever buildings you take, whatever land you take, whatever it is, that is now yours. Go and do that. I don't think here in the West we have an answer for that. We really don't have an answer for that. And I do think that is what's coming, guys. I really do. I think that's what's coming. The Nobby is saying Russia has loads of spirits. Vodka is one of their biggest exports. And on that bombshell, ladies and gentlemen, I think I'm going to close this down. Listen, guys, you guys have been fantastic. You've given me some great comments. Thank you for you guys who've been who've subscribed. Thank you for you guys who've become members. I really do appreciate all the members, guys. It really does help me out within the algorithm when it pushes me up and it pushes my videos out to more people. Remember, the crux of this live stream has been the Zelensky saying he's requesting foreign troops as, maybe he's even demanding foreign troops as part of any peace deal, any ceasefire negotiations. Counter to that, the Russians are saying absolutely not, no way, Bob, and they have just completed their new autumn conscription where they've bolstered their military by 135,000, which is an absolute phenomenal, which is an absolute phenomenal number. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close this. In fact, hang on. Let me get to one. West would beat Russia in a fight. Yeah. Okay. Look. Yes and no. I'm not going to go on to it now. In a fight between NATO and Russia, without the United States, it would be an absolute swizzle. It would be an absolute whitewash for the first few months. But then as the attritional rate bites in, the Russians would start to push back. So you would see NATO forces pushing, then it would really slow, and then it would start to come back. That's what would happen. In the first couple of months of a conflict between NATO and Russia, headlines would be Russian conscripts no match for highly trained NATO forces. Cheap Russian tanks no match for NATO armor. NATO aircraft decimate Russian air defenses. That would be like for the first couple of months. But when the manufacturing capability kicks in and the mass of manpower and stuff people can drive forwards, that's when it would take advantage. That's when it would start to turn the other way. Now, let me just leave you guys. Hang on. Yeah, so for those of you guys who don't know, there's just been a press release or something by the United States, Donald Trump saying that Iran best calm down, basically, or we're going to beat the hell out of them. Look, I've always said that's the direction. I think even on the beginning of this live stream, right? So the beginning of this live stream, I don't know, maybe it was yesterday. Like, somebody's going to have to go and rewind. I think the beginning of this live stream, I said to you guys that America's going to go and fight Iran. It's just not, that rhetoric's not in the mainstream yet. It turns out it's in the mainstream now. Where was I going with this? I can't remember. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, look, guys, I'm going to close this down now. You guys have been fantastic. I'll be back on tomorrow morning. Guys, at 10. I bid you good evening. You guys are great. You're fantastic. And I'll see you guys later.